Module 2, the emotional cage of patriarchy. What does it mean to be a man? Who taught you that? How much of that definition feels like your truth? And how much of it might feel limiting, maybe even like a cage? In today's module, we're going to dive into the emotional impact of our societal expectations of masculinity and how they've shaped your and my lives. Recognizing this is the first step in breaking free. Patriarchal masculinity. You may have heard this term before. It might sound academic or political, but please keep an open mind and abandon any preconceived notions about the term. At its core, patriarchal masculinity simply refers to any expression of masculinity that supports a patriarchal value system. Now, this value system is embedded into the fabric of our society and defines what it means to be a man. For example, to be stoic, dominant, self-reliant, and always in control. It teaches us that emotions like sadness or fear make us weak, and that our worth is tied to how much power, wealth, or success we can achieve. It also teaches us to reject anything perceived as feminine. It makes us think that we're entitled to dominance over others, especially those weaker than us. So think about the messages that we get growing up. Man up, don't cry, be a man, don't be soft, don't throw like a girl. These phrases might seem harmless, but over time, they build a rigid framework, what we can call the man box. Now, the man box is the set of rules that society imposes on us as men and boys. So if you exist inside of the box, you're safer because you're allowed to be tough, competitive, and assertive. You have to represent all of the qualities that live inside of this box. But you're not allowed to show vulnerability, admit weakness or mistakes, or ask for help. That's outside of the box. But stepping outside of the box will lead to ridicule or rejection, and so that's what keeps many of us trapped inside of it. Here's the truth. The man box doesn't just confine us, it harms us. When we only live our lives inside the man box, it creates emotional suppression, a key part of staying inside of the man box, leading to higher rates of depression, anxiety, and even suicide among men. It isolates us, it damages our relationships, and it often fuels anger or resentment because we feel like we're leading a double life. And it's not just about individual experiences. Yes, this applies to your and my life, but it's a systemic issue that affects us all. From a personal standpoint, I'd love to share a bit more about my own experience growing up and trying to live inside of the man box. I believed that I had to prove myself as man enough in every possible way and live up to my father's expectations. I threw myself into different activities such as soccer, and then in college playing rugby, a sport where toughness and aggression are celebrated. And I learned to push through injuries, ignore my physical pain, and act like things didn't hurt. I tried to do this because I thought if I could just prove myself to check off all of the correct boxes within masculinity and really adhere to the man box, I would be worthy, I would be admired. Off the pitch, I sought out activities that matched that same image, riding motorcycles, taking risks, and leaning into certain kinds of reckless behavior that people associate with being a real man. I carried this mentality into so many different parts of my life. I told myself that if I were to show my emotions to other people, if I were ever to be caught crying or struggling, I would be found out. I would be a failure. So when I was struggling, I refused to talk about it. Instead, I often doubled down to try to prove my worth through achievements, physical endurance, toughness. And the more that I tried to embody that ideal, the more I felt disconnected from myself and the people who loved me. I often felt exhausted, lonely, and angry. But I kept going because it was the only way that I knew to gain respect and to belong and to feel valued by the world and by other men. But the cost was enormous because I sacrificed my emotional well-being. Many of the people, such as my mom and sister or former partners, people who care about me and love me, didn't know what was going on. They knew something was wrong, but I lost out on opportunities for real connection because I was too afraid to be vulnerable. I felt like I was trapped living this performance instead of my authentic self. And it wasn't until I started this work, men's work, that I realized the man box really wasn't serving me or protecting me. It was limiting me. And I know I'm not alone. So many of us are living this same story, whether we're aware of it or not. The things that we choose to wear, how we choose to speak, walk, the things that we choose to invest our time and money into, a lot of it is dictated based on fear of being criticized if it's outside of the man box. So the first step to breaking free from this and feeling more free and authentic is recognizing what it is. It's just a set of societal rules designed to control how we express ourselves. But because these rules don't serve us, they don't make us stronger, they make us smaller. How courageous or brave is it to just do whatever you're told and to start to adhere to this vision of manhood that you think everyone wants of you? Stepping outside of the box is what takes courage. It requires us to challenge those beliefs that we've held for years and then unlearn those habits that are keeping us stuck. So what if we saw emotional vulnerability as a form of strength? What if asking for help wasn't a sign of weakness, but an act of bravery? I know that there are men in your life or in media or popular culture that you admire who do resemble qualities of emotional openness and vulnerability. So if we stop measuring our worth by our achievements and start valuing ourselves as complete whole people, authentic people, it'll benefit us tremendously. And these changes are possible, they just require intention and practice. And that's really what this course is about, giving you the tools and the support to step outside of the box and reclaim your full humanity. So let's do an activity. Let's take a moment for reflection. I'd like you to think about a time in your life when you felt pressured to man up or deliberately suppress your emotions. Maybe it happened at work or in a relationship or during a pivotal personal struggle. Maybe it was in childhood when you were a boy, or maybe it was last week. What were you feeling in that moment? And what message did you internalize about yourself and your emotions? How has that moment shaped the way you see yourself today? So take 5 to 10 minutes and just journal your thoughts. But if writing isn't your thing, that's okay. Sit with these questions and reflect. If you feel comfortable, consider sharing your insights in the community forum. Because remember, there's no right or wrong answer here. It's all about growing together and creating awareness that you're not alone. So now's an opportunity to pause and complete the activity. Great work. So, the path forward? Brothers, the man box doesn't have to define us. It's a cage, but it's not permanent. We can break free, and it's way easier to do that together. We can choose to live differently, to embrace vulnerability, to value connection, to honor our full range of emotions, and in so doing, be the best versions of ourselves. I mean, it's brave and badass. It's not easy work, but it's worth it. Every step you take towards reclaiming emotional sovereignty is a step toward a fuller, richer life where the people who care about you and want to be connected to you get to know you more fully, and you get to know yourself better. And as we continue this course, we're going to explore the tools and practices that make this transformation possible. You'll learn how to challenge harmful norms, build authentic relationships, and show up as your true self. You're not alone in this. We're in this journey together. We're doing it as a brotherhood. So, in closing, remember that the first step to breaking free is recognizing what the cage is. Hopefully with this module, you've started to reflect a little bit about patriarchal values, patriarchal masculinity, and the man box. You've done that today. That's powerful. So together, we're going to learn how to dismantle this and replace it with practices that honor our full humanity. So thank you so much for showing up for yourself and for this work. Let's keep going, brother.